How's it going, everybody? And welcome to another episode of the Brock at the Buzzer podcast. Before I get started, you can find all of my social media links in a Linktree link below. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals, the Cavs making a coaching splash, the Cavs, in my opinion, off-season goals, and the best Coca-Cola 600 ever. But first, let's talk about the NBA Finals. Thursday night from the Chase Center in San Francisco, the NBA Finals kick off. And I expect it to be an all-out war as the defensive-minded Boston Celtics take on the Golden State Warrior juggernaut. Let's start with the underdog Boston Celtics. The keys for the Boston Celtics. The role players must step up. This includes Grant Williams, Al Horford, Robert Williams, and Derek White. How will the Celtics defend Steph Curry and limiting turnovers, something the Boston Celtics struggled mightily with against the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals? And I feel this way because if you give an experienced Warriors team the opportunity, they will capitalize on your mistakes. And now the X Factor for the Boston Celtics, Marcus Smart. Yes, he is banged up, but this is due to the fact that he will be the primary defender against Stephen Curry. And Smart must run a purposeful offense to get the others open looks. This does not include Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, of course, who can create for themselves if needed. And now for the favored Golden State Warriors. Being able to play Curry off the ball, being able to shut down Tatum and Brown, having great rim protection, and much like Boston, the role players must step up, like Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, and Gary Payton II, who is probable for Game 1 against the Boston Celtics after he has recovered from his injury he suffered in the second round, thanks to Dillon Brooks and the Memphis Grizzlies. In my opinion, the X factor for the Golden State Warriors is Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins will be the primary defender against Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, depending on how the the Golden State Warriors play it, in my opinion. And he must score on a consistent level to take the scoring load off of Curry and Klay Thompson. And finally, the series prediction. I believe Boston wins the series 4-3 due to the Boston defense being able to wear down the Warriors in a 7-game series. As simple as that. And now on to the second part of the episode. Cavs make coaching splash. Tuesday, the team announced they have hired former Sacramento Kings head coach Luke Walton to join J.B. Bickerstaff's staff starting in 2022-23. There have been multiple reports the Cavs have been looking to add a quote, offensive coordinator to their staff. That is according to Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com. Also, this does not surprise me because Fedor also reported last season that Walton was spotted at Cavs practices towards the end of last season. In my opinion, if Walton fills the quote offensive coordinator role, end quote, Walton must make the offense faster. The Cavs not only ranked at the bottom of the NBA in pace, but also last season they looked visually slow. And since it was their quote-unquote first big move of the offseason, here are if I was in that front office, here's what my goals would be this summer. Sign Darius Garland to a max extension. Garland proved that he is the centerpiece of the Cavs moving forward. So simply pay him like one. Make a run at a star in the role type of player. I'll get into further what that means. If the Cavs want to reach the next level, the Cavs must at least make a run at a player like this. Not like Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine, because simply you're giving up way too much if you pursue those two in particular. A guy like Jerami Grant would be phenomenal on this team. There have been multiple connections made to Colin Sexton being signed and traded to the Pistons for Jerami Grant. Andrew Wiggins has been thrown around in the Cavs front office as well, and there's much more than just that. And those reports also coming from Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com. And the reason why I believe the Cavs should do this, because the Cavs have the assets to do so. Guys like Colin Sexton, obviously a restricted free agent. Karis LeVert, who is entering the final year of his contract. Kevin Love, who is entering the final year of his contract. And Isaac Okoro, just to name a few, who has not lived up to his potential just yet in Cleveland. And finally, round out the bench with vets. The Cavs have a few gaping holes in this roster, especially at the backup point guard and center positions. Because as we saw at the end of the season when Jared Allen was out and Darius Garland was clearly playing well over what he should have been, I think he averaged the final 2 months of the season about 40 minutes a night. And if he is a franchise centerpiece, much like I think he is, you obviously cannot play him 40 minutes a night. And in my opinion, with 20 plus million to spend in terms of cap room, I think the Cavs do spend it wisely and do just that. And for the final part of this episode, the best 600 ever. On Sunday night at Charlotte Motor Speedway, NASCAR ran one of its crown jewel events, the Coca-Cola 600. And even with the race going 5+ hours and 619.5 miles, not a second was disappointing. The next-gen car made a massive difference in that with comers and goers. For example, defending Cup Series champion Kyle Larson was penalized 3 times on pit road, started from the rear of the field due to unapproved adjustments, and his car literally caught on fire. And Larson also was caught up in a wreck late, and then he ended up finishing 9th. It just shows you how racy that car and track were on Sunday night. Furthermore, on the track was in perfect condition. The drivers could move around, and it seemed no one was, quote, stuck in air behind the car the driver was trying to pass. And finally, even though Denny Hamlin won, so congrats to him and the entire 11 FedEx Toyota Camry team, the best team on Sunday night was Trackhouse Racing, leading an impressive 289 of the 400 laps between Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, winning 2 stages as they continue to show week in and week out they are the best team in the Cup Series. And that'll do it for today's episode. Once again, I'm your host, Brock Kowalski, and you can find all of my social media links in a Linktree link down below. When it gets closer to the end of these NBA Finals and closer to the NBA Draft, of course, you'll hear a lot more of me. I just haven't really had much to talk about, in my opinion, over the last several weeks. But now we do again, so you'll be seeing a lot more of me here on this channel. Again, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And I'll see you all very soon on the next edition of the Brock at the Buzzer podcast.